Hello, my name is Roger Lopez, and I'm going to be speaking to you about Spanish dialects. I have a degree in Spanish, and I'm pursuing a career in teaching Spanish, so I figured that this would be a good topic of discussion. Spanish doesn't constitute one standard dialect, but rather a whole assortment of dialects, each with their own quirky pronunciation. As I'll show you in this short video, each dialect stands out for different reasons. Spanish dialects fall into two major groupings: Peninsular Spanish and Latin American Spanish. First, we'll look at Peninsular Spanish. It refers to Spanish spoken in Spain by approximately 47 million people, which also includes former Spanish colonies outside of the New World, such as Western Sahara, Equatorial Guinea, and Gibraltar. Even within Spain, though, there are still regional variations. The main one is the split between Andalusian and Canarian Spanish and the Spanish spoken in the rest of Spain. Many of the settlers who came to the Americas came from Andalusia and the Canary Islands, especially from the Andalusian city of Seville, so their Spanish sounds a lot like Latin American Spanish. The first characteristic we'll look at is distinción. This refers to the pronunciation of the C and Z phonemes, which in pronounced Spanish sounds like th. The name distinción refers to the distinction between that sound and the S sound. In Latin America, there is no distinction, so C, Z, and S all sound the same, like an S. This means that caza, which means hunt in English, and casa, which means house, sound the same in Latin America, like casa. An urban legend states that Spaniards talk like this because once upon a time, a Spanish king had a lisp, and the people began to speak like him out of reverence. But actually, the th sound arises out of Old Spanish, which had 8 different fricative sounds. Now Peninsular Spanish has 3, th, s, and ch, and Latin American Spanish has 2, s, and ch. Peninsular Spanish also uses the vosotros pronoun, the second-person plural pronoun. This is an informal pronoun used to directly address more than one person. Ustedes is the formal equivalent. In Latin American Spanish, ustedes is used exclusively, and vosotros has fallen out of everyday usage. Vosotros has unique conjugation rules. For example, Latin American Spanish says ustedes son to say you are, but with vosotros, it becomes vosotros estáis. Now, we move on to Latin American Spanish. In addition to the differences we covered in Peninsular Spanish, Latin American Spanish is characterized by the extensive use of vocabulary from indigenous languages, and increasingly American English due to the influence of the United States. First, we will look at voceo. Voceo is the unique use of the pronoun vos, which is no longer used in Spain. Even in Latin America, it's only used in certain countries, and it's virtually absent from the Caribbean and most of Mexico. It is strongest in Central America, and in the southern cone of Southern America, especially Argentina and Uruguay. Vos is conjugated by taking the root verb and dropping the final R while retaining the stress on the final syllable. For example, tener becomes tenés in the second person, as in vos tenés, which means you have in English. In non-voceo Spanish, it is conjugated as tú tienes. In Old Spanish, vos was considered a very formal pronoun, but now it's considered very informal in areas where they're still used. Next, we'll look at Caribbean Spanish. This refers to the Spanish spoken in Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic, as well as in Venezuela and the Caribbean coast of Colombia. It is characterized by the deletion of consonants at the end of a word, or even the middle of a word, usually the consonants S, D, or R. This gives it a unique slurring quality that is well known as distinctly Caribbean. A sample phrase is todo mi amigo, which in other forms of Spanish would be pronounced as todos mis amigos, all my friends in English. The distinction between R and L is also lost or even reversed in Caribbean Spanish. For example, Puerto Rico is pronounced as Puerto Rico in the local dialect. Finally, we'll look at Rio Platense Spanish. This refers to Spanish spoken in Uruguay and most of Argentina, especially in the capital, Buenos Aires. The Spanish here is influenced by the historically high rate of Italian immigrants to the area. The defining characteristic of this dialect is the use of sheísmo, where the double L and Y phonemes both sound like sh. This means that the word pollo, which means chicken in English, sounds like pollo. Rio Platense Spanish also uses a unique intonation that makes it sound melodic and sing-songy, much like Italian, especially Neapolitan Italian from around Naples. This has become because many immigrants to Buenos Aires and Uruguay came from that area of Italy. In conclusion, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of Spanish dialects, and the topic could easily be stretched into academic essays and books. But hopefully this presentation gave insight into the many different sounds of the Spanish language. Adios!